everyone, I'm Helen and this is my Mousey Makes podcast, and I come to you from Durham in the northeast of England. If you're a new subscriber, you're really welcome. Thank you for coming to join me, and if you're one of my other lovely YouTube friends, then you're welcome back, and hope you're going to enjoy today. Most of the time my podcast is about the crafty things that I do, so I chat about them and show you them, and I often take you out for a walk near my home or somewhere local that I've been to, and sometimes I take you to the kitchen and make something nice. From time to time though, I've done a slightly different podcast where I've got a bit sort of philosophical about things, and today is one of those days. And although I am, before the end, when I finish chatting away to you, I'm going to show you how I make one of my favourite kinds of homemade biscuits. So we'll go off into the kitchen a little bit later. But my topic for today is just all about that fear that we sometimes have about trying something new. And the idea for chatting about it came to me because a few days ago I tried something new for the first time. It's something that I'd wanted to do for years, but which I was really a bit afraid of trying. I just thought I was going to be really bad at it. I thought it was too hard. But no, I had a go at it. I overcame my fears. So I just thought I'd chat a bit about that today. And so while I'm chatting a bit more, I'm going to show you just a video of me doing this activity. This was actually my third attempt. So you can see my first attempt. I'll put a photo of that here, and my second attempt. So you can see that the thing that I was trying for the first time was watercolour painting. And when my daughter Sarah came to visit last week, while her grandma was staying with us, we decided that we'd all do some watercolour painting. Well, Sarah has dabbled in watercolour painting for a while, but neither her grandma or myself had tried it before. I'd always just thought it was going to be too tricky, and I'd never even tried. So we didn't have the right kind of paper and just had a basic set of paints and paintbrushes. We gathered a selection of things to observe and paint. We had a small vase of flowers and a pot of utensils from the kitchen and a couple of pieces of fruit. And with a little guidance from Sarah, we made a start. Well, I have to say that doing that painting is just one of the most soothing, creative activities I've ever tried. Moving the paintbrush slowly over the paper was almost like a gentle massage. So rather than making a conscious decision to just relax into it, it seemed to work the other way around. As I started it, it relaxed me. I did decide before starting that whatever happened, I would only say kind things to myself, although it was trickier to persuade Grandma to do the same. Anyway, I had a thoroughly enjoyable time painting, and I wasn't disappointed with my first efforts. I can look at the pictures I created and see that there are aspects that aren't true to life, but because I was being kind to myself, I was able to praise myself for overcoming my fear of failure and just having a go. And I learnt a lot about watercolour painting, even in that first attempt, the very first basic attempt. I hadn't watched any tutorials beforehand or read any books about it. And I know that there are all sorts of techniques that you can use, but I think the most important thing is that I just started. I just gave it a go. And it really got me thinking about this fear of failure or doing a bad job of something is really quite a common human trait. So I did a bit of research on what other people have said on the matter. I found lots of advice online on how to overcome this fear of trying something new, and also on the subject was kind of linked to it, which is vulnerability. I watched an excellent talk on YouTube by an American lady called Brene Brown, she spent years researching human behaviour with a particular focus on shame and vulnerability. And you'll find a link to this talk in the description box below. She begins her talk by pointing out that connection is the thing that gives purpose to our lives, and that many of us live, whether consciously or not, with the fear that we may not be worthy enough to be connected to others, that somehow we're just not good enough. Brene Brown decided, rather than focusing her research on people who'd had negative experiences, she would focus on the people who'd showed a sense of worthiness and a deep sense of belonging. And she called these wholehearted people. That's nice, isn't it? Wholehearted people. And she recognised that they all had certain characteristics in common, such as having the courage to be imperfect. So one of my little topics that I've talked about before, embracing imperfection. They had enough compassion to show kindness to themselves as well as to others. And it's really, really important that you can be kind to yourself. You can't really be kind to other people without being kind to yourself as well. And they all had connection with other people. And this was a result of their authenticity. They were just themselves, which hopefully is how I come across as well. I'm not trying to be anybody else. I am just me. I have to take me as I am. And all of these people, all of these wholehearted people, had fully embraced their vulnerability and recognised that it's just a necessary part of being a human being. Brene Brown believes that vulnerability is the birthplace of joy, love, creativity and belonging. So she concluded that it was a very, very important part of our characteristics. So how can we overcome our feelings of vulnerability and fear when we decide we'd like to try something that we've never tried before? Well, I'm going to share my top 8 tips that I've gathered from my own experience as well as some of the other things that I've read. So the first one is that you can start by calling the new thing an experiment, and just tell yourself you're just testing something out and that whatever happens, you'll learn from it. It's just an experiment. The second one is to make a conscious decision to only say kind things to yourself. No self-deprecation is allowed. It's not helpful, and you just need to say things to encourage yourself. The third one is that there's no need, if you don't want to tell or show another soul that you're trying something new. The only reason that I'm showing you my efforts here with you today is that I hope that it might help you realise that you can, if you want, overcome your fear of trying new things. The fourth one is consider sharing what you've done with someone you trust in the first place, someone who'll give you encouragement, and if they do criticise, they'll do it in a gentle, helpful way. My fifth tip is to then consider sharing with a wider audience. This year, I've been sharing photos of my various drawing efforts on Instagram, and I've actually been pleasantly surprised at all the supporting and encouragements I've had from some of the creative people there. In sharing what I do with other people, I'm connecting with my fellow human beings, and I therefore increase my sense of belonging. And that then has an effect on your well-being as well. That you just feel better in yourself if you have that feeling of belonging and connection. And if I manage to enrich even one person's life in some way through connecting and sharing what I do, then it really, really will have been worth it. My sixth tip is definitely do not compare your efforts with anyone else's. When I was trying this watercolour painting for the first time, I tried to steer my mind away from thinking that Sarah's painting was better than mine, because the little voice in my head was saying, oh yeah, hers is much better than mine. But instead I repeated my little mantra that this is my own individual style. So it's not better or worse than anybody else's, it's just my own individual style. 7th tip is remember not to ask yourself, am I good at this? But instead ask, what does this activity have to offer me? And if all it does is help you relax and unwind, then that's great. If all it does is help you just learn something or appreciate somebody else's skill because you've had a try at something that you've seen somebody else do, it still has something to offer you. And finally, my 8th tip is just to practice gratitude and joy and repeat often, I am enough. You know, you are. You're just enough the way you are. I hope you've found something helpful in what I've just been chatting about there. And yeah, I don't know, it's just a really interesting topic. I could chat for an awful lot longer, but I think that's enough for one day. So we're going to go into the kitchen now, and we're going to make some biscuits, some lavender shortbread. This is a Mary Berry recipe, and she uses, the recipe says to use fresh lavender. So if you have any lavender in the garden, you can just go and, you know, take off some of the flowers and use those. You might have some dried lavender, which is fine as well. I use dried lavender, which is from my garden. I think it's from about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe more. I've just kept it in a sealed jar. I dried the lavender, scraped all the flowers off, and then just put them into sealed jars. So that's what I used. Yeah, so I don't think I need to tell you anything else about that now. So here is how I make lavender shortbread. Well, I hope you fancy giving those a try. They're really, really delicious. So anyway, it is time for me to go now. I'm trying to make this a little bit shorter this week. And I just want to say that next week's podcast will definitely be a lot shorter. I've got my nieces coming to stay for the whole week, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to have time to do any podcasty things at all. So what I'm going to do is show you some video that I did of a visit recently somewhere, and one or two things of me out around and about, and I'll just accompany it with a bit of piano. So that'll be a short one, but then the week after I'll be back to normal, just with my usual chatty podcast. Okay then. So thank you ever so much for watching, and I will look forward to you joining me again very soon. Until then, take care and keep busy. Okay, bye.